Hour number 2 of our program, and we are joined by Ricky Campbell of the Register Citizen. Ricky, kind enough to spend some time with us in studio this afternoon. Among the things we're going to talk about is Crohn's disease. Ricky, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Nice little break from the newsroom and telephone.
Here you go. And we have you in studio today. It is National Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week, which when I booked you, I was not aware of that until you informed me of this. And is this the first or second year it's an awareness week?
Yeah, I think it's the second, to be honest with you. I didn't even know it until my race came up, and they said, just so you know, next week's Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week, so be promoting yourself as much as possible. For a lot of people who don't know, I just finished this last week, and I ran a half marathon in Las Vegas to benefit the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation of America. And as a person who has suffered from Crohn's since I was 8 years old, I thought it was a really cool feat, a really good opportunity to let people know what this disease was all about and how it really affects life in general. While I'm very fortunate as compared to a lot of people, I still suffer from it, and it's something that I wanted to do. So Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week came to my attention very abruptly, and so that's when I decided to kind of push it a little bit more and make people realize that, hey, this thing's here, and it's something that affects a vast majority of the American population.
I read your blog, and that's reporterricky.wordpress.com, and the experience that you describe as being someone who has Crohn's disease, in some respects is similar, I think worse actually, but similar to those who endure being lactose intolerant. And I am one of those who is lactose intolerant, so I could identify with some of what you were writing about, not knowing, for example, when you're going to be in the bathroom and for how long you're going to be in the bathroom. But you wrote, and you just said you were diagnosed officially as having Crohn's disease at the age of 8?
Yeah, what had happened was I remember being in second grade and just being just ridiculously sick. I was, I was not able to hold anything in or down. My mouth swole up so that I couldn't even eat. It was just a really nasty situation, and one doctor's and the next told me it could have been just one thing or another, and then they discovered that different forms of inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, such as Crohn's and colitis, happens to be a genetic thing in my family. And so they started treating me for Crohn's, and ta-da, that's what it happened to be. And so it's one of those things that you learn to live with, much like any other disease, whether it's anything from diabetes to being lactose intolerant. It's just something you have to plan your day around. You have to plan essentially life around. And it was quite the struggle, especially as an 8-year-old kid. You can't do a lot of the things that you'd want to do. Again, I was very, very fortunate, very blessed to be able to big into athletics. So I was still able to play football and baseball, and it didn't stop me from doing it, but it also didn't make it easier on me. And a lot of things, if I ever get anxious or nervous, that tends to increase it a little bit. So if I was, for instance, in high school, I was a catcher for our varsity baseball team, and I get really nervous before a playoff game or something. I could guarantee that I'd have to make a run to the restroom. And, it's just little things like that you really have to plan around, more so, I think, than the rest of kids that age.
For the people who do not know, let's start right from the beginning. What is Crohn's disease?
Crohn's disease is an inflammatory bowel disease, IBD, which also, like I said, encapsulates a couple other different forms of disease. Crohn's generally targets a form of the digestive tract and either swells it up so much that you can't digest or withers it away to where that part of the digestive tract just doesn't work at all. Some people have it attack one certain section. Other people's have it attack another section. Mine actually can go anywhere on my digestive tract. Right now, actually, Dan, you can see I got a little sore on my lip. And what has happened is, just over the course of the last weekend or so, when my stomach starts acting up, anything on my digestive tract from the lip all the way through can be attacked. And so what happens for mine, I get these little sores, and it can happen anywhere in my digestive tract. And most visibly, obviously, it sometimes happens on my lips. And it can swell up if I don't take my medication. My intestines can swell up, so I won't be able to digest, and that obviously causes a lot of issues. It has different forms, and it comes, a lot stronger to some people, a lot less strong to others. And it's one of those things that there's a lot of ebb and flow. It doesn't pick just one type of person. Much like any other disease that's similar, it can come in all shapes and forms, and to people too.
Is the illness genetically disposed?
Yeah, so my family has a history of not necessarily Crohn's disease, but a lot of inflammatory bowel disease and a lot of digestive issues. My mother suffered from ulcerative colitis, which is another branch of that. And it's happened to my brother or my uncle and my mother's mother too. So it's just one of those things that it can skip a generation, it can hit a couple within the same generation, and I'm fully expecting it not to go away anytime soon. But again, that's why we're raising awareness, letting people know that as silly as it may sound, people have to use the restroom a little bit more, and make sure people understand that it's one of those things that we have to be aware of, and so that ties back into my marathon running and so on and so forth.
As you wrote in your blog, and I, as I said, can identify with some of the symptoms for those who are affected by let's say lactose intolerance, you feel sometimes as if somebody has gone into your intestines and just wrung them out like you would wring out a washcloth.
Yeah. I joke in I'm pretty lighthearted in my blog, and again, people can go check that out. It's reporterricky.wordpress.com, and in this older blog post, I explain that there's a very angry menstruating ninja, I believe is how I say it, who just walked in on her husband cheating on her, and it essentially, anytime it really kicks in, it feels like your intestines are on fire, mixed with swallowing razor blades. Sometimes it's more in the upper part of the digestive tract, other times it's lower, and it's just the most excruciating pain, and you can't do anything about it. You can run to the restroom and try and relieve yourself. And that might work for a matter of 2 minutes, but then you leave and you go sit on the couch and it's right back. You can lay down, that might help a little bit, but then it comes right back. You can go into the fetal position, which is usually pretty comfortable, but it's just a lot of different ways, and it always manages to find its way back. And so it affects 1.4 million Americans, and there's no cure. There's ways to tone it down. I take the same medication that they give to leukemia patients in a pill form, and that just tends to subdue the pain and the swelling in my intestine.
Talking with Ricky Campbell, reporter with the Register Citizen, and Ricky is a regular guest of ours, updating us on what's happening around Torrington, but he suffers from Crohn's disease, and this is National Crohn's and Colitis Awareness Week. Are there certain foods that can trigger an attack?
Absolutely. As a victim, I guess I can say, of Crohn's disease, essentially I'm supposed to be a vegetarian, and then even sometimes vegetables can trigger it. However, again, I've planned my days, or I can, because I love food. I love meat. Not supposed to have red meat, but I just plan accordingly. I'm ready and willing to accept the consequences. So for me, I love really spicy food, but I know that if I have spicy food, that the next day is going to be pretty painful. At baseball games, for instance, I can only have a certain amount of peanuts. Nuts tend to trigger it much more. Even dairy, which is unfortunate because, again, I really love. The problem is you love all these foods, and you have to throw them out of your diet, or at least watch them in very slim moderation. It's kind of like I'm sure people with diabetes would love to have everything that they could have, but unfortunately they can't. And so again, I'm very fortunate. I'm able to balance it and at least recognize the consequences that are going to be coming. Whereas some people with Crohn's, they have to have some serious surgeries. Sometimes it cripples them down to where they can't even walk anymore. And then they have to be very, very conscious of what they're eating. For as long as I have the opportunity, I'm still going to eat pepperoni pizzas and bacon and plenty of milk if I can do it.
Do you have to take the medication daily or just when you feel an attack coming on?
I'm supposed to take it daily. I've managed to, and don't tell my doctor, but I've managed to do it every other day. And then that also spans it out so I don't have to go back to the pharmacy as much. But generally speaking, if I forget to take it or if 4 or 5 days lapse, then I can really start to feel it. And then sometimes it doesn't even matter. I've been very good about taking my medication the last week and a half or so, knowing about my half marathon. But it still decided to attack me. Actually started coming the day of my marathon. It was probably because I was a little anxious. It wasn't one of the wake up, get to the starting line at 5 and gun goes off at 7 marathon. It was under the lights of Las Vegas on the Strip. So I had all day to think about it, and that triggered a lot of anxiety, and that anxiety really triggered the Crohn's.
And the medication you said is similar to what's taken or is the same medication that people who have leukemia take?
Yeah, it's really, really odd, and I actually didn't know this until I had somebody who just happened to be looking at my prescription label, whose father was a doctor, and he said, "What are you doing taking cancer medicine?" And I said, "I have no idea what you're talking about." And so I guess I'm not a scientist by any means or a doctor, but I guess it has the same effect that it's trying to subdue the issue, whether it's internal or not.